time to make our radio a little bit more period correct. Okay, so today we're going to do an install on this new radio I got. The current radio on the BMW M3 is really great. It's actually a pretty popular option. It's got a really nice large screen. It's got Bluetooth. It has plug-in CarPlay, not wireless. It's got a DSP, so you can really adjust the equalizer and all the settings, and so on. The real issue with it is something that bothers me a tiny bit, and call me sort of a perfectionist, but there's a little piece that sticks up a little bit. I'll show you that in a second. It just gives away the fact that it's aftermarket. With this build on the M3, as I mentioned in the intro video, if you didn't catch that, I really want this to be as period correct as possible and look very OEM. And so I'm gonna swap this out for this unit behind me. I'll talk you through what that is and show it to you, but I think you get all those same features with just something that looks like a little more purposeful like it was from 2002. So let me show you the current radio that we're working with, then I'll do the unboxing here, and then I'll show you how to install it. Okay, so this is the current unit, and like I said, this really isn't a bad unit. It's really nice. It's got a big, large screen. It's got touch screen, all the features. There's a plug that actually is routed down to here by the previous owner, which is helpful. This is really just what bothers me. And again, that's a small thing to a lot of people, but the fact that this sticks up basically gives away the fact that this is aftermarket. And I'm just looking for something a little more period correct. Okay, so we're gonna go and unbox this. This is the Avin 4. Model numbers right here. Specifically, it's AVN 441 1PX 411. So it's the Android unit. It's got 32 gigabytes. It's got an advanced DSP. So I actually ordered that as an extra because I do have the BAV sound upgrade, and I want to be able to really finely tune the equalizer and all the sound settings, cutoffs, crossovers, things like that. So we did order with that, and we also ordered wireless Apple CarPlay. I'll show you the device in here, but let's go and take a look at the unit first. Obviously, that's the main thing. So let's pull this out. And that is the unit. So really like this design. I think you guys hopefully can tell why I went with this. As you can see, very, very period correct. This is going to sit right inside the unit. This is basically the size of what would have been kind of like the nav upgrade for the E46 within these model years. As you can see, it's got BMW style radio controls, buttons. It's got the knobs. The LED on this is all in the orange, so it does match the instrument lighting for the stock instrument cluster and AC controls and all that. The only item that really is aftermarket, or would tell you this is aftermarket, is this small A here. So really love that Avon was, smart enough to keep the branding subtle. In fact, it's sort of counterintuitive, but the less you brand something like this, in my opinion, the higher likelihood there is to sell it, because people are trying to make this look factory with all the features of Bluetooth and CarPlay and everything. So really love this unit. Beautiful, great job by Avon on producing this. In addition to that, we've got a whole variety of cables here, most of which, or maybe all of which, we probably won't use. So this is going to be USB cable, which we won't need because we have the Apple wireless CarPlay device. It's going to be things like radio antennas, backup camera connections, things like that. The car already has a backup camera, so it should be able to plug and play that into the Avon unit already without having to wire any of this stuff up. It already has antennas and everything hooked up because, again, we've got a fairly new aftermarket touchscreen unit in the car, so probably won't need much of this. These are the wiring harnesses that would allow you to make all kinds of different changes and connections between, say, the stock wiring and a new unit. May or may not need this. Only way to tell is to pull out the old unit, see what kind of connections we're working with, and go from there. But the hope is that a lot of this stuff is already wired up and in really sort of plug and play condition because, again, we've got an existing touchscreen. And then last item in here is the wireless CarPlay. So this will allow for wireless connection. So this will plug into the USB on the unit, the head unit itself, and allow me to wirelessly connect my Apple iPhone so I can do CarPlay straight through this screen. This will actually be the first car I've ever owned with CarPlay, believe it or not. All the other cars I have Bluetooth for audio and things like that, but I've just been using the phone screen and like a Renline phone mount or something like that for maps and Google and texts and all that. So it'd be really nice to have this all the way on the screen. So that's what's in the box. Gonna go ahead and get the old unit out and see what we're working with. Okay, so in order to get the head unit out, this probably is the same for any head unit, frankly, but Going to want to go ahead and remove this trim. So these are the pieces that go basically right here underneath the airbag. You're going to pull those. You're also going to pull this centerpiece here, which kind of straddles and goes over the radio area. That way you can access any kind of connections or screws. In order to take this off, if you happen to have this particular unit, we've got two locations. You can see there's a screw right there, and there is another one back here. So we're going to take those two screws out and remove the radio. Okay, so when you're pulling this out, you want to be very careful. Make sure you don't pull anything inadvertently. Make sure you don't damage anything. The other thing you really want to do is to take note how things are set up, and in a lot of cases maybe even label them if it's not super straightforward. So I can already see we've got a harness connection here, which I think is going to go straight into our current unit, and we've got obviously a backup cam feed here. We've got radio antenna, all kinds of things. So this is the point where, you know, you really want to take your time. Make sure you understand everything that is inside here and how it's all wired. This will save you so much time later. I see a lot of videos where people are just eager to yank all this stuff out and get this out of the way and just get going, and not taking note of this stuff is really going to add a lot of time to your project. So I'm going to go and do that off camera. Maybe get some tape out, start labeling some of this stuff. I'll pull this unit out, and then we'll talk about how to put the new unit in. Okay, so we've got the old head unit out, and basically a lot of this stuff is already labeled. So like I said, just make sure you're really careful about when you take stuff out. But let me give you a rundown of what we're keeping. Luckily, some of this stuff is reusable. So this is the main radio harness. The unit comes with two different harness options. This is option number 1. This is option number 2. As you can see, option number 1 is what fits. So this is going to be the main bulk of what we use, is this harness that was supplied as part of the box. That's going to plug into here. Now, it does have one of these slide type switches, so you just want to make sure you slide that really tight to lock it in. And then this black side is going to go into the back of the new unit that we've got. So that's basically the main harness. This is what sends all the sound to the speakers, amplifier, what have you. This right here is our radio antenna. So this was wired up from the previous unit install. We're going to reuse that. So the previous unit had GPS and wireless adapter connectors. The new unit only has GPS. It does not have a 4G or wireless option. That was an option to select online, but I did not select that because I'm going to be running CarPlay, so I'll use the internet off my phone to go through. This is the mic connection. Mic is discreetly installed up here, so we're going to leave that. That's from the old one. This one I'm not sure on. This is a connector that goes into the old current unit that does not fit into any of the new slots, so we may not end up using that at all. And then this right here is the connection for the wired USB. Okay, so that goes to the CarPlay connection, which basically runs down here. The floorboard, I'm not going to be reusing that because we're going to be using the wireless, so we're going to actually unplug, put the wireless unit in, and then this is the rear backup cam, so that's already wired. That's going to plug in. So what we're going to do is take the new unit, go and get the harness and these accessory connections and everything all plugged in, wired up, and then we're going to test it all and make sure it's working, then put the new unit in and we should be good to go. Okay, so I'm going to run you through some of the system here. Certainly not everything. It's not meant to be an all-inclusive tutorial, but as you can see, we're loaded up here on the main screen. This UI is customizable, and this is one thing I do actually really like. So you can go into settings, go down to car, which is not super intuitive, but go to home app, and these are 5 different user interface looks you can pick from. So I'll go back to this one, which I think is the factory. As you can see, it's a lot more colorful. It's a lot more like Android-esque. Not a huge fan, to be honest. So yeah, I chose this one, which is something a little more, I don't know, factory looking. Boring, maybe, but it's a BMW, so they're all about restraint. And this dove gray interior, which we're obviously changing out. If you've watched my first video, is a good example of that. But nonetheless, I kind of like this user interface. So unfortunately, you can't change the widgets on this front screen. That would be great if you could. Well, you've got time, music, navigation, radio. I don't use the radio a ton. Everything I listen to is on Pandora, Spotify, podcasts, etc., which frankly is why CarPlay is so important to me, which I love. This free navigation widget actually takes you to that. But we're going to go ahead and go into CarPlay. This is kind of the main interface here. You can see you've got your Maps feature for, in my case, Google Maps, which is what I use, your Pandora section. You've got calendar, and then you can certainly split screen this. And you can also go out to your multiple apps here to get everything. So your podcasts, text messages, your phone, obviously features, things like that. CarPlay, component of this thing obviously is what a lot of people get this for. Works flawlessly as far as I can tell so far. Beyond that, I will go into the amplifier. I did order this with the more advanced DSP. So obviously it has this large band equalizer, which is great. There are a lot of really good bass settings. So I've kind of been toying with these for different music types, but ultimately settled on a custom user one for me. This does have the BAV sound speaker system, and this was kind of the best setup I could find thus far. This is really nice. And I think this is just the advanced, but this allows you to really play with individual levels of speakers and things like that. So, and obviously positioning of where you are in the car. Super cool feature of the advanced DSP chipset. So that's kind of the overview of the system. Like I said, it's not crazy in depth, but overall the number one feature though for me is the wireless Apple CarPlay, and it does work so far really well. So I'm happy with that. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. You found it helpful. If you're thinking about getting this system, just to give you again kind of an overview of it. The install is going to be a little different for everybody, so take mine for what it's worth. So if you're new to the channel, it's the first video you've ever seen, go back and watch the intro video for this M3 build series if you would. That'll give you a better sense of all the different stuff I'm going to do. If you don't subscribe, please do. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. We're going to start getting in all kinds of interior goodies, pedal changeouts and interior armrests and Alcantara trims and redoing the leather and everything. So lots of exciting stuff to come, but really appreciate you guys watching this one.